Hi, welcome to Noise Violation Podcast. Today, our guest is Katie Rich. Katie, I've known you for a little time now. You are my instructor at the gym, doing ab classes and workout classes, and you're also a yoga instructor. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for you having me on. I've seen your past lineup, so thank you again for including me.
Yeah, so give us a little background of yourself. Where are you from? How you got started in instructing and yoga, and kind of how you built a business around that. And I know you're doing a lot of stuff online. Um, so yeah, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a native Texan. I grew up in the Dallas area, and like most Austinites, I came here for school and never left. So I've been in Austin for about 20 years now. My background is kind of different from what I'm doing on my with my fitness career. So I actually have a background in public policy. So I work full time, and this is my absolute passion to help others. So that's in my way of carrying forward the degree that I have, is to help others through their fitness and reaching their goals, whatever those might be. And so I've been teaching probably for about 8 years, but I knew what I needed to do in college to get through it and how I needed stress relief. So I've been working out in various capacities for probably the last 20 years that I've been here in Austin. So I've pretty much tried it all. I mean, there's probably not a question you could ask me about any type of fitness that I couldn't answer at this point. So, but
So
it's a
did
pleasure to be able to talk to you.
yeah, did somebody like in your life, did you do sports when you were younger, or um, what was your first activity or introduction into like sports or health?
Okay, so I'll just tell you now, I always wanted to be athletic, but I was terrible. I was the runt. So growing up in school, I played soccer and I played volleyball, but I was probably the one that got hit in the head the most and picked last. So I think that drove me to say, this is not okay, right? So obviously I wanted to be in better shape and be the best representation of myself in my adult years. And so that was a little bit of the driver, right, to get into the gym. I felt like that was a safe place to be. And then from there, just seeing others who needed to have some belief in themselves, that while they didn't grow up playing soccer, didn't play college football, they can still take great care of themselves and have pride in what they can accomplish.
Yeah, so do you think that's helped you? I mean, it obviously motivated you to work out harder. I've seen you in the classes, and you're doing the hardest stuff, and you're instructing people to like push it and telling them to come on, you can do it. And so you're very motivating and encouraging. And do you think any of your background has to do with where you are now?
I absolutely think it does, in the sense that I always want people to know that they can strive for better. I'm showing you the top level, but that doesn't mean I got there overnight. And you don't see what goes on behind the scenes when I'm preparing for a class at home, right? There's a lot of times that I give up and say, man, I'm going to have to come back to this later. But just knowing that I built up that strength behind the scenes, so that when I get to you guys, hopefully it does show as motivation and inspiration, that if you keep coming back consistently class after class, that you're going to see yourself progress to whatever that next level is.
Right. And so you're the instructor. So when you tell people like you're a yoga instructor, um, what do they say to you? Like, what do they think about yoga? What does yoga mean to the average person?
Oh my gosh, if we were on Family Feud and we had that question on the board, you would probably not get the top answer. The top answer I get from folks when I say that I'm a yoga instructor is, I'm very inflexible and I can't touch my toes. I swear, 9 times out of 10, that is the response that I get. And I tell them, yoga's not exactly about touching your toes. And my short answer to them, and it usually gets a laugh, is just bend your knees.
Yeah, and so it's like when you hear that, I automatically think like, well, of course, then it's like you need yoga then, right? If you want to be more flexible, but they automatically kind of like rule themselves out like, oh, yoga's not for me, I'm not flexible.
I know, and it's sort of a catch-22. If you never start, you're never going to get better, right? And so that's my role, is to, you say, well, why don't you try a session with me? I mean, it's all geared towards that specific person. I don't have an idea in mind about what a class should look like or what a one-on-one session should look like. It looks different for every single person, every single group that I meet. And so if that's really their goal, to be able to touch their toes, we're going to work on them touching their toes safely. We're going to work on them, doing some seated forward folds before they ever get to their trying to touch their toes, because I don't want them to hurt their back, right? That's not the point of trying to do a forward fold to touch your toes. So we all have our own starting points. We all have our own, specific needs, and it's all personalized for you if you work with me.
Yeah, and what do you think the biggest hurdle is for people to actually go to class? Are they comparing themselves to other people? Like if they see somebody else like doing the expert move and then they haven't even started, so they're inflexible, or um, how do you get people to class?
So that's a really great question. And I mean, that absolutely is a part of it. I mean, I hate to see that, because everyone has their own practice, right? You're in that space for that hour of time for yourself to get out of it what you need, whatever that might be. I mean, that might just be clearing your head. That might be stretching your hip. That might be, let's push myself and see how many chaturangas I can do on my toes, right? But I love to bring those people, one-on-one. And then I don't even have to do a move. If somehow then that's intimidating to them to see that I can do a certain move, then either I'm going to keep doing it at that lower modification at the level they are, or I'm going to walk it through them and work on their form. So I take that intimidation factor out by bringing them to me first. And then if they want to start joining those classes, then hopefully they've got, some experience and skills and confidence they need to go in there and rock the class.
Yeah, because that was always something for me. I've done yoga a few times, and it's like I look over and people are doing the headstands or the back bends, and it's like, well, if they're doing it, I got to do it too. And so I end up pushing myself when I probably shouldn't be, or I should be going like on the beginner moves. Um, so how do you get people to like slow down or say, well, you're not there yet? Is it like it seems like it's a hard thing to tell people that, if they're not, it's like saying you're not good enough. You can't do it, but also telling them to keep going and keep trying. So it's almost like a double-edged sword or something, that like a message.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And there's a couple of different ways that I approach that. One is praising what I want to see repeated, right? If I see them doing great in a certain pose, then that's what I'm going to start complimenting them on. And then maybe we build from there. If they really like that pose, they feel the benefits out of that pose, then let's see how we can build on that. I mean, folks don't need to get to the back bends or the handstands. Folks need to understand why they would even want to do those, right? And then what's the intermediate step that will still get them the same, kind of benefit from that. So for example, like doing a back bend, right? Doing like a wheel. Well, we're working the posterior chain. You know about the posterior chain from the core class, right? So how do we get there? We can do a simple bridge. we can fancy up a bridge all day long before we need to get our back in such a position that it's not ready to support, right? So, just making modifications and making them seem fun. Like a wheel might look fun to someone, or doing a headstand might look fun to someone, but if their shoulders aren't ready and their core's not ready, then there's certain things that we can do to try to help us get there. I mean, even just working up to doing a dolphin pose, or a half handstand against the wall or something. So there's just ways to work at it so that it seems like it's it's part of their practice, it's part of a process, it's something mentally that they're focused on to want to keep going and to get a little better at whatever that goal is. But again, it comes back to understanding what your body can do now, understanding what the benefits are of doing some of those advanced poses, and are they really what they're wanting to get out of it, or is it just something that looks appealing.
Yeah, and then you mentioned one thing, flexibility, as a kind of impediment or something that yoga will benefit. What are some of the other benefits of yoga?
Yeah, I think that's great, because that's what people hone in on, right? Because they normally want to say they're inflexible, even though they're not. The other thing is, just the mental clarity. I mean, talk about the changes that we've been through in 2020, and how many of us are stuck at home every day, right? We work from home, we're encouraged to stay at home. And so that can really do a number kind of on our psyche, right? So we can find our minds going in places it doesn't need to go. We can find ourselves losing some of that productivity. We can find ourselves just, kind of feeling cooped up and, causing some anxiety from that. And so really, that's one of the things, is certainly just a way to sort of decompress and let go. Just this week, I have, a client that's a school teacher, and I know that she carries a lot of that stress home with her from the day, because whatever's going on in the schools this year, I think it's a little more overwhelming with dealing with the pandemic on the side of that. And so I just wanted to encourage her to do some fun breaths, just some fun breath work, just to release some of that stale energy that's not really serving us very well. So that's certainly one of them. People can have physical goals. I mean, you can obviously gain strength from doing yoga. I mean, it is a full body workout, even if you're only doing a 20-minute session. I mean, think about the upper body work that you're doing just in the basic poses like down dog, or what the lunges and warrior twos are doing for your legs, and what some of the planks and other moves are doing for your core as a whole. I mean, so many of us have back problems from sitting in a chair, or I know I've had a shoulder injury from just being rounded over a desk all day. So it's ways to combat our daily lives, and then also make us feel like we've accomplished something. Just when you're done with that, feeling like your whole body just had a great workout.
Yeah, and what is that feeling? Is that endorphins that get released? I guess, why do you feel good after yoga? I always feel more like relieved or like stretched out, and I don't
Yeah.
know what it is, but I just feel good.
Well, I mean, it is a release of some of those hormones, just letting go of that stress and tension that we've been holding on to. I mean, people say that you hold a lot of tension in areas like your hips and upper back. So it's learning to just let your body breathe, learning to let your body go. And you're right. I mean, you're releasing some of those, toxic things that you've been holding on to. And it is, I mean, if it's kind of rebalancing things for you, and just letting go of sort of that stale CO2 that we hold in our bodies because, we don't breathe enough, right? We don't take enough breaks.
Yeah, For sure. And sometimes I have to be conscious of my breath. If I'm not, it's shallow. And then if I notice it's shallow, then I'm probably stressed out and I need to take a couple deep breaths to relax. And so that's something I try to be aware of and conscious of. Um, would you say yoga is more stretching or more breathing? So when I think of yoga, I think it's just, I used to think it was just stretching, like, okay, I'm just going to stretch. But when I started doing yoga, the more I brought breath into it, the better I think it like became more one practice, or I linked my breath and body, um, and it became something different. Um, so how do people work on their breath more? I think you can look at the pose and kind of see it, but you can't see somebody breathing. So what are some things that you tell people to do for breathing?
That's such a great learning. I mean, I love that you brought that up, because it doesn't matter what sort of practice of yoga that you're doing, whether you're talking about yin, which is more focused on those stretching moves and holding a pose for 2 to 3 minutes, right, to get those muscles to finally loosen up. But it really is the basic idea that breathing drives all the movements. Even in a difficult pose, if you're trying to hold a balance move like tree, or I'm asking you to hold a warrior three and you're having to really brace that core to stay in that move, it really is all about going through that breath. So I try to instruct folks to think about inhaling on the way down or exhaling on the way up, or whatever's appropriate for that move. I say that to people, and I say it over and over again, because the first time it's like, what is she talking about, right? But once you start to hear it and it starts to sink in, and it starts to become, common nature in your practice, then you do feel how much more you get out of it, how much more you can lengthen those muscles, because you're not tensing up, right? You're allowing that oxygen to flow through the body and sending it to where it needs it most, right? If we're doing a pigeon and, you really need to get it into that hip flexor, or you really need to let that glute soften up, then that's what you're going to focus on. And it's almost a bit of a visualization in some cases.
Right. And I hear a lot of people when I'm in class or something, I hear them struggling or I hear their breath off. And then it's like, how do you get people through that and to calm down or just have fun? Like,
Yeah. So probably two different answers to that. For getting them to calm down, again, it's just kind of softly talking them through it, encouraging them not to want to come out of that pose just because it's uncomfortable, right? Again, it goes back to that breath, softening the breath, taking longer breaths. So you're learning not to get into that sort of stretch reflex mode, or sort of that fight or flight mode with the body, right? And just letting that muscle sort of naturally lengthen out. And so, that's one of them. I mean, having fun though, that's a different perspective altogether. How do you have fun with it? You come in with maybe you come in, and you're like, oh my gosh, I had the worst day ever, right? But you're on that mat and you realize, this is my time. Like, I don't want to bring that in here. I don't want to waste my hour of my time where no one needs me, right? So then it's about, okay, just letting go, and we can have some fun with breath work. We can have some fun with poses. Balancing's always fun. Who cares if you don't get it, or you can't get your leg all the way parallel to the ground? It's just about trying. Right? So just being in the moment and just letting yourself try something new. I think so often we want to narrow ourselves to what we're good at. I know I'm very prone to that, but just getting out of our shell and trying new things and letting ourselves play a little bit. When we were kids, we got all of these opportunities to go play in the yard or swing on the swing set. And so much of our lives now are just so structured. So I mean, yoga's really a chance to get away from that. It is more of an unstructured type, fitness activity if you let it be.
Right. And I just asked that because sometimes when I'm in a pose or something and then it's really uncomfortable, or I'm in pain, or my leg's shaking or something, I'm like, I can't hold it. I can't do it. Um, it's at the moment when I just relax, or I like smile and have fun. It's just like you let go and then you're fine. It's like there's something like mental that you're holding on to, like a pain or something, and then it's once you start having fun, I think is really when you can really push yourself, or you can test your limits. And it's like, I didn't know I could do that, just because I stopped thinking about how much my leg hurts or something, and I started thinking about or I faked a smile, and then I actually had good feelings, or I had something happen. um, and so kind of to remove your mind from the pain, and to even just fake a smile, it will actually like help you while you're in that moment.
Yeah, that is so true. And it's not uncommon to feel like a release of emotions. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a class where this has happened, but sometimes when we do some really deep hip openers, like people actually might start to cry.
I
Um,
haven't seen that.
no, I mean, I haven't seen it, but I've seen the facial expressions on my class change. Like I always try to tune in to, what they're showing me, right? It might always not be through a body movement, but through a facial expression, I can see how their mood is changing throughout the class.
Yeah. And you might not have an answer for this one, but this is just an observation from me going to class. But I notice it's predominantly female in yoga classes. Is there a reason for that? Is there a stereotype about yoga? I guess why isn't it like 50-50?
I know, I really wish it was. I think part of it is women generally are, even though they think they might be inflexible, they are generally more flexible than males. I don't want to make that a stereotype, but women's hips generally open in a certain way, and so men, it's hard to get their hips to open forward, even though they might not be as tight in their hip flexors, um, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah. And
I
I
mean, there's
think
just
one of the reasons why maybe was like when I started out, I had just heard, oh, yoga stretching. You're not working out, it's stretching. And then I went to yoga and I was like, wow, that was a good workout. And so I think that it's got like a bad rep where it's like, oh, you're just sitting there stretching and breathing. You're not working out.
yeah. So here's what I try to do. I try to go after those athletes, right? Or those folks that do strength training 5 days a week. Guess what? I mean, in doing all of that, in doing those repetitive motions and putting all of that load on your joints, what do you think they're doing? I mean, I would certainly think that folks would want to, one, have mobility in those joints still so that they can get deeper into the range of motion for strength training. It helps with agility training, right? If they're lighter on their feet because their muscles are now lengthened and they're repairing faster than they are from just the strength training and the tears that naturally occur, then they're going to be better at whatever they want to do. So I do, and then I love doing group classes where I can do where I can have couples in there together.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it fun too, because some of them are pretty competitive, and I'll let that play out, right? So that just goes along with that's their relationship, but in some ways it's a bond for that. So if there's any way I can sort of encourage men to get over that stereotype and understand how everyone needs this in their life, then that's my goal. So just being on here and being able to hear your experience as a male and encouraging you to keep doing that so that you keep getting those great benefits for just your lifestyle in general.
Yeah, I've loved it. I came in with an open mind, and I just wanted to try it and see what happened, and um, I really liked it. So I've been keeping up with it. But since the pandemic and COVID came out, the gym shut down immediately, and so um, I didn't have anywhere to go, or I didn't know what to do, and so there was no classes that I could attend to. I mean, this was early on, and so I even canceled my gym membership just because it was like, I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to go in there with a mask. I don't want to risk anything. Um, and so I've kind of turned to like some YouTube videos, or I'll do a video in my living room or something. How is your instructing and teaching, and how has that changed since the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I have to continue to keep myself motivated when I'm not in front of folks. Imagine that. I mean, that's sort of what drives us. And so I do find myself, I have a regular practice every morning. I have a YouTube channel that I absolutely love. So I get in at least, 20 minutes of yoga a day, just doing that. And then as far as my clients go, everybody's virtual. I mean, Zoom's a great platform for that. I have seen other instructors that will do private Facebook groups to be able to go live. So it's really trying to create opportunities, right? Just looking at the technology that's available to us so that we don't feel disconnected, and we can still have those benefits that we used to enjoy, even not being in a gym. I mean, I think that that's a personal choice that we have to make, whether it's safe for us to go back, or if we just fall in love with the notion of being able to roll out of bed and getting some yoga in for the day, and then coupling that with whatever our other strength or cardio activity is for the day. I think that's great. I can certainly say that, as far as groups go, I still do those private groups. Those are always, fun. And we usually do something outside so that everybody feels comfortable. Everybody can have, a safe distance from one another. But I don't want to discontinue those. I mean, I just did one last week that was sort of a mother needs pampering day kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we were outside by the pool, and everybody got to where they wanted. And then I just made sure I was, a safe distance to make everybody feel comfortable. And we all enjoyed our practice. It's a great way to get outside the house, and, enjoy some yoga and some views, and just have that fresh air.
Yeah, I think I even saw you advertising once for like a yoga and wine event.
Yeah, I did those for quite a while. I partnered with some local wineries and distilleries, and we would do those once a month, and just to try to draw people out. I mean, it wasn't a promotion of a lifestyle, if you say, because I actually got that criticism from some folks. So just wanted to be clear about that. But it was more about what would people want to partner things with to help them have a relaxing Saturday. If they have a chance to get away from the kids, or they have a chance for some girl time, or mom's in town, and what's something that we can do together. It was just trying to create those pairings that people would enjoy. I even partnered with a med spa, and we did something great for Mother's Day, where it was, I think they called it sort of like a runway facial, right? It was like an express facial, and you did yoga beforehand, and we could have even brought in some wine if we wanted to, or some hors d'oeuvres or something, just so everyone felt, pampered and left feeling good, and, kind of ready for Mother's Day the next day.
Wow, I'm ready to sign up. Yeah, that sounds great. Where did you, I mean, obviously you're an expert with yoga, but how did you get involved in the like the business aspect side of like starting your own business or putting on own events? How did you get started doing that?
You know, it was really this idea of wanting to differentiate myself. I you know, could have easily said, I'm going to try to work in a studio, or I'm going to try to add a yoga class at the gym. And I said, you know what, this is a chance for me to kind of flex my creativity, and really find a way to meet people's needs that aren't going to be met in, you know, a classroom style, you know, scenario. And so, you know, the one-on-ones are for me to really help meet people's needs. The pairings that we just talked about were a way to say, you know, let's make yoga less intimidating, like we talked about before. Everybody can do it. And then especially when I do the group sessions, I do bachelorette parties, birthday parties. Like I said, I did kind of that pampering day. And so those are all specialized to, you know, certain folks' needs, whether it's the music, whether it's the types of oils that I bring in to help people, you know, relax at the beginning and end of class. It's the setting they want. You know, it's super fun to be able to be outside by water, or, you know, just have this sort of, you know, beautiful view of the hill country or whatnot. And so, I mean, that's what it was all born from, is just the idea of how do I make this more, you know, presentable to folks? How do I reach a broader audience and bring them in and help them understand, you know, what can be gained from just an hour of yoga? And if they want to continue it, that was great. I was willing to, you know, certainly take them on as a client. You know, after those sessions, I certainly got a lot of questions about, you know, this area or that area, or, you know, this concern or that concern. And so it was a chance to say, here you go. When you're ready, you know, let's chat more.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot on your plate with your job and then the yoga, then all this. How do you balance all of that in your lifestyle?
You know, I've really taken a step back in the business and thought about what makes the most sense, like prioritizing where I'm helping folks the most.
Hmm.
And so that means carving out the time that I can accept one-on-one clients, carving out those weekend times if I do have a special event going on, and then making time for myself, just like I said. I mean, making time for myself to have my own practice so that I can continue growing as a yogi, and bringing that into, you know, whomever I'm working with. Like I may see something that another instructor does that I'm like, wait, I know so-and-so was having problems with their right hip, and here's a great stretch for that, or here's a great move, or here's a great modification, or whatever it might be. So that's how I prioritize it. It's really, you know, most of my time spent on one-on-one, and then having those special times that, you know, I carve out, you know, if someone wants a session when, you know, there's a group of ladies in town on a weekend.
Yeah, is there one you prefer? Do you prefer one-on-ones over like big events, or do you care?
They're so different,
Yeah.
honestly. The focus is so different. The focus, you know, with the one-on-ones is trying to help folks in their daily lives, and just what they struggle with. I mean, obviously I'm trying to indicate to you that yoga goes beyond let's do this move and then this move next, and you know, here's how you modify it. It's more if I get them to breathe, if I get them to understand how yoga fits into their lifestyle, then, you know, hopefully that anxiety goes away. I've worked with clients with rheumatoid arthritis, and knowing that doing yoga, even if it has to be modified, or even if we have to take breaks, it helps with that inflammation, you know, in the joints, to get that synovial fluid naturally flowing. You know, and just being able to stop a class if someone's not ready for the sequence that I put together for them, and if we need to do something totally different, we do it. So, I mean, that's what the one-on-one brings. And then the group brings different personalities together and different dynamics, and sort of feeding off of those dynamics, there's a lot of times that I don't really go in there with, you know, some set sequence. It's a matter of, okay, you know, here's what the group brings. You know, it might be a mix of age groups, a mix of experience with yoga, and then just sort of putting something together for them that seems enjoyable. And if they're laughing at each other or playing off of each other or looking at me like I'm crazy, then I know I need to make changes on the fly, right? So that's really the fun of it for me, is just learning to be more flexible and learning to be more conducive to, you know, what people need at the time.
Yeah, I could see that just for me as a participant, like you kind of feed off the people around you. So in a big group setting, you can actually feel like the energy of the other people. But at the same time, there's so many people that you can't get the attention. So it's like, I know I'm probably doing this wrong, but you know, the instructor's over there correcting the other person, or you can't get the attention. So there's pros and cons to both. So I could see that.
Yeah, I love having a group that's, you know, 4 or 5 people, because then at that point you're still going to get the attention that you need, and I've got, you know, a great view of you. You know, it's fine to have a group of similarly situated ladies that are, you know, a group of 10 to 12, right? Because I know ahead of time, you know, are there any injuries? Do I need to make modifications for them? Or, you know, if this participant chooses not to continue, I'm okay with that. It's really about what they want to get out of it. I'm just a facilitator for them.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And you talked about it a little for a second there, but how do you keep up on your practice? Like, how do you get better? Do you go to classes as well and sit in? How do you learn more about yoga?
You know what? I was doing that when we were able to. Like, I loved catching someone else's class, and I would do different types of classes. I would go catch someone's yen yoga class, which is all about, you know, stretching and letting go, and that was a great way to end the day. Or I would go to somebody's power yoga class at like Black Swan, you know, when they were open, just to learn how to push myself and knowing what my own limits are. So it seems like when you know what your limits are and you can push yourself a little bit past them, it gives you some insight into where people are, and letting them own where they are at the time, but having some idea of, you know, if we kept doing this consistently, you know, you could do a little bit different here, you know, and just have that ongoing challenge. So if I did have that super athletic client, right, then I would know here's some more of the challenging moves. But you know, my regular clients might not be looking for that. And so it's seeing all those different things and knowing that, you know, here are people's boundaries, and here's a little bit of a push goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is I'm always, you know, doing continuing education. You know, I started out with certain training in, say, Payo, which was a mix of yoga and Pilates, right? And that was very club based. And then I said, you know what? I want to get into something that gives me more freedom to teach wherever I want. And so I became a booty camp yoga instructor. And I know you're gonna be like, what is that? And it was really awesome. It focuses on the lower body and the core. And that instructor became my yoga teacher instructor. So that's how I got my 200 hours. Took me a little longer than it did most, just because I was juggling a full-time job and, you know, had my fitness business. And, you know, she was an amazing instructor at a different time zone. So, you know, we found ways to make it work. And, you know, we still work together. She's doing a 14-day challenge starting on Sunday. So I'm like, I got to get in that, right? Because it's really easy. It's pretty easy to say, I'm going to stick to what feels good, but you can't, right? To see a difference in ourselves, we have to keep pushing. And so I'll be in her 14-day challenge and she'll be kicking my butt. And I'm going to get stronger for it, and I will be a better instructor for it. So that's how I do things, whether it's doing continuing ed and doing studies through the, yoga teacher training or through AFA. And then, of course, learning how to improve myself and how to be a better instructor.
Yeah, so one of the questions is like, if I'm a beginner, then it's going to hurt because I'm not flexible enough. And so you've been doing yoga for a long time. Does yoga still hurt when you're an expert? Does it ever stop hurting?
Yeah, so I have a funny story to that, but I'll give you the real answer. So I had a student last week say, "Hey, when does this stop hurting?" And I gave this short, fun answer of when you keep doing it every day. I mean, that's certainly part of it, but no, it never stops hurting. You learn how to breathe and relax into the movement and get deeper into a pose. So you learn, how to work with your body. And you do get, more flexible over time, but we all have bad days, right? Or we all have days when we slept on our neck wrong, or our back is particularly stiff when we woke up, or we did some work in the yard, or we did a particularly hard workout the day before and our balance is off. Or, we're not able to go as deep into, say, a down dog or do as much shoulder work as we normally do, and we need to modify. I mean, we're all subject to that. We're all human. And so I would say, yes, while it gets easier, but that means that you're going to need to push yourself a little bit harder, but also give yourself some grace on the days when you just don't feel very good.
Right. So, I mean, it reminds me of like an analogy is like you're climbing up a mountain and then you make it to the top and then you can see the other mountain right after it. And then so you
Right.
start climbing up that one and then you make it to the top and then you can see the other mountain. And so it's like goals or baby steps that you just keep going after. So I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So
And if you slide back past a set of rocks one day, doesn't mean you should stop, right?
mm-hmm.
Get some rest, fuel your body, get some electrolytes that you need, and try it again the next day.
Yeah, so is there just a couple questions. Can yoga help with weight loss?
Yeah, it absolutely can. I am not nutrition certified, so I'm generally careful in how I word some of these things. But I mean, nutrition does go hand in hand. We know that, right? I mean, I talked a
Mhm.
little bit about that just being in the gym. What a component, healthy nutrition, consistent healthy nutrition plays in our lives. But certainly there are practices in yoga that focus on that more, focus on pairing good nutrition and that sort of thing. But I find in general, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but once we start getting into, physical fitness, and once we start doing things that are building strength and make us feel good, it's not an addiction, but it does become, part of a daily habit that we want to continue to pursue, right? We want to keep feeling good. So our body, in turn, to keep feeling good means I don't want to feed it greasy junk, right? I start craving more of what my body needs. And so, that might be more lean proteins. That might be not eating right before bed, because then I'm going to wake up feeling, terrible and not wanting to get my morning yoga in that, really sets the course of my day, right? So it's those types of things to, help motivate us and just kind of naturally change what our body wants and needs from us.
And is there anyone who can't do yoga? If like, what would be it's like, I have this, so I can't do yoga. I mean, what are the limits to somebody joining like a yoga class or like being able to do yoga?
Yeah, so I haven't seen those limitations yet. I will tell you this. I've even taught chair yoga classes. So people of any age level can get, some those benefits. Even if they're sitting in a chair, they can still do sun salutations. They still get those good stretch benefits. They still get the, lubrication for their joints. They still learn how to breathe. So I really, again, haven't really seen that. I mean, like I said, I've had people with rheumatoid arthritis who have, limited mobility. And then they come and start doing some yoga. And I just absolutely love seeing how they can progress and how much they tell me that they're in less pain every day, or they're not taking their medication as much that has such horrible side effects. So, I mean, I've seen squirmy kids to, to people of just various ages. So
I guess another way to ask it would be, would you not suggest yoga to somebody? Or is like yoga is great for everyone? When would you not suggest yoga as a method or as an exercise to somebody?
You know what? I would want to at least have kind of a one-on-one consultation with that person, and then maybe take them through some moves, because again, like we talked about from the beginning, some of that is just a mental block or a mental stigma with yoga, and not so much that they can't do it if they don't get past that. I mean, you certainly want to be very careful of folks that need a doctor's clearance, right? After they've had a heart attack, or after they've had a certain type of surgery, and you want to make sure that they've gone through, all the rehab and all the physical therapy that they need, and they're cleared for some sort of physical exercise. I guess that would be the first hurdle. But other than that, I would want to get to know them and what their particular issues and concerns are before I would say, no, this isn't for you. I mean, it can be the most gentle type of, physical activity there is.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, I'm not a doctor or an instructor. I don't have any certifications or anything, so don't take my word for it. But it just seems like there's so many modifications, or if you have the proper instructors, probably the biggest hurdle. But just light stretching or gentle breathing can help with so many different problems that we've talked about. It seems like a great solution for a lot of things going on right now in the world with anxiety and everyone in their house. I mean, it's something that you can do in your living room or your garage. You don't need a ton of space to be able to do it and get the benefits of it. And now everyone has a computer or a TV that they can log into and have it right at your fingertips that you can follow along at home. So I think it's just an exercise and a practice that is so widely available to any skill range, whether you're a beginner, an expert, that the benefits are just it's free. I mean, you don't need anything. I mean, once you got a couple moves, you can do them at home. And so I recommend it to everyone. But why do you think it's not as popular as it should be, based off like all the good that it can do? Because I still think it's kind of like underrated, or it's not really mainstream. It's kind of I mean, I think it's growing for sure, but I don't think it's I think it still has kind of a stigma or something around it.
Yeah, I think those are all really great questions, because I mean, at the outset, it is the most travel friendly exercise you can do, right? I mean, even if you're in the dead of winter and you can't do normal things like go for a walk, you can do yoga. You can do yoga in your hotel room. It is just so transportable, and brings so many benefits, right, that we've already talked about. So, I mean, I ask myself that very same question, is what makes it more accessible? And I try to just be as educational as possible with folks. I mean, hey, if I'm not for you, I'm going to share the YouTube video that I do every day. And, you know, if you don't like that, I can share someone else that might be, you know, more appropriate for you. But I just take it outside of myself and just, you know, it's just a mission to find you what you need, what you can benefit from. And so, I mean, like I said, I mean, there's even chair yoga. You know, if folks can't get on the floor, which I completely understand, you know, they can still hit play on a YouTube video that's appropriate for them. So I don't know if it's just an awareness. I mean, we've talked about maybe how to get past some of those stigmas, but you know, again, it benefits anyone's from kids that, you know, need to calm their minds a bit, to athletes that, you know, need to give their muscles a chance to recover and understand how to, you know, use the breath accordingly, right? I mean, in sports, you're getting your heart rate up. And so how do you calm that down? How do you calm your body down after, you know, an event like that? To, you know, folks that have stressful jobs and they sit at a desk all day long. You know, so, I mean, so hopefully we can help through, you know, doing things like this, and me spreading the word and you spreading your experience, and you know, just trying to make things a little better, and getting past what some of those stigmas are about, you know, what they think yoga is all about. I'm trying to think of a careful way to word that, but it's not associated with a particular type of lifestyle or a tie to a certain type of spirituality. And, you know, I've certainly heard those criticisms of it. And so I try to sort of caringly, you know, come back and talk about, you know, its main benefits beyond that. You know, we talked about the mental and physical and just overall, you know, well-being of someone.
Yeah, well, I know it was on my radar for a couple years before I even tried it. It was like, oh, that yoga thing, I want to try it, but I've never done it. And so it took me a while to get there, but I'm grateful that I did, and I went to the class at the gym, and so it was included in my membership, so I had nothing to lose. So I just popped in and did it. But I want to thank you, Katie, for what you're doing and helping people. You're out there on the road, going to people and teaching them this practice and helping them relieve stress and build up their body and gain strength and to have fun while doing it. And you're the perfect person to do that, because every time I was in your class, you always had a smile on your face, you're positive, and it was just a joy to be around. And you bring so much motivation and inspiration and courage that, you know, it makes working out fun. And so if anyone wants to hire you or join you for a class online, how did people go and do that?
So they can find me on Instagram at Hill Country Yoga Fusion. And then my website is hillcountryyogafusion, all one word.com. So those are two easy ways. And then I want to just sort of close with a response to your question as well, which is, how can you help, or how can anyone watching this video help, you know, get over sort of the idea of yoga's not for me? Bring a friend. You know, that friend that says, I can never do this. Well, bring them, right? Or bring two. And then what happens then, right? That person tells someone else, and so it just starts to spread. I mean, we tend to do things when we get them from trusted sources, right?
Yeah. Sometimes
So
we all need peer pressure or someone to pull us out of our comfort zone and go as a team and do something. And so that's great advice. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure. It's great to see you. I'm sorry that this is the only way we get to see each other these days.
I know. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we did this. And yeah, thanks, Katie.
Thank you.